Hello again, David Metler, Renaissance Companies, Manager, Construction Technology. Just to final up this is my part 3 of my little series of going from Revit to a MySQL database. Just to review what we talked about last time was I gave you information on how to write this logically within a code block within the Dynamo tool to be able to get it to write to the database correctly. And then I showed you, I believe I talked about how I used Workbench to be able to get into my information, to be able to see it. Basically, Workbench is just a way of viewing the database. Kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet. And you can see some of the background information on the fields using Workbench. So today I wanted to talk about using another tool. Yeah, I think it looks like I gotta launch it. This tool is called ElectroCRUD. There's other tools out there. I'm using this one today because it's a free tool, and it kind of shows you what the web page would look like as you're building it. The other tool that I've used in the past is PHP Runner. Excellent tool. It will allow you to pull information off the database, and then it kind of automates those steps for creating the PHP code and the web pages. Great tool. But today I'm just trying to keep my costs down and just trying to do it inexpensively. And this ElectroCRUD is a great way to preview the information in looks kind of like your web page would, a browser would. So right now I've already had gone in and set up my information to create the link to the database, which is the same information you would use to set up your Workbench. So same exact process. I'm not going to do it again because of security issues with showing ID or IP addresses and passwords. So this I just told it to use that database. So now this is that same database that we are seeing here in Workbench. It's just kind of a webified view of the database. So I'm just going to show you real quick. So one of the ways when it's a fully functional database, you would probably just go into the database or into the web page itself to update the information. I haven't got all those links working, but just to kind of show you a preview of how it would work. I'm going to go ahead and change this assembly code. By default, Revit puts all of their assembly codes in the UNI format. We typically use the CSI master format. So I'm changing that to be a wall assembly using the master format number. If I hit apply, so I'm applying that field. The thing that's nice about Workbench is it automatically will write the code for you to make that correction, and I just applied it. So now it's applied in my database. So now if I come over to my CRUD viewer, I can just say reload, and you'll see that information is updated, right? So some of the cool things I can show you here is that these are little widgets. You can basically see, I kind of changed this from a wall type showing a preview to this. We could actually change this to show the UNI format number. So if it's C10.10.145, if I hit save and go back, you can see that there's 94 of those UNI format codes versus, so basically you can do, this is kind of the stuff to preview what you could do with the information on a web page. And it's just a nice way to say, okay, well, what's the data going to look like if I put it into a web page? The other one of the other nice things is you can create these filters. And so I went in and created a couple filters ahead of time, and you can just apply the filters, and then the filters, when you start applying it, you can say unapply. Now it's showing all of the tables. You can apply the A3. So now it's just limiting those views to the items listed A3. The other thing that's great about this, let me unapply that, is you can also, I think I have some I want to say what, A2? No, A2s, maybe A3s. and A6 was the other one, A6. So the other thing that this shows is that it's fully searchable, which is kind of the main reason I wanted to go into the database in the first place, is to be able to have a searchable way of looking at Revit's information without having to go into Revit. So that's kind of my goal here, is to create all these different ways of looking at the Revit information without having to go into Revit all the time. So anyway, so this is a little preview of how you can do that. So the last thing I was going to cover in today's session, we are already 5 minutes in, is a little preview. At some point, I will start getting into how to get the information back into. I ran a little test today. So the reason why I added, you'll notice that I added these two, or maybe you won't notice, but I added this stud gauge and the assembly code information to my database for testing. And I wanted to be able to see if I could come in and grab this information, the assembly code update, to Revit and bring it back in. And I was successful in bringing it in so basically this is the information inside of Revit. I went into the parameter and I was able to update it. Now there's a few steps because since this is an assembly code, I had to go in and update the assembly code. I had to go back in and change this. I created my own masterclass format, and I had to go in there and create. I could do a quick view. I had to go in there and actually create this one for that 092216. Where's 092216? Right there. I had to go in there and update that, so that's probably something to talk about in a future video as well, how to update your class formats in Revit. So I had to do that first because if you don't do that, it doesn't give you all these extra little descriptions, because that's automatically generated from that other file when you change this number. So I was successful in being able to do that. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the little series information for getting information out of Revit into an external MySQL database. Thanks, guys. Take care.